The neon sign for Rosie's Diner flickered against the rain-soaked Brooklyn streets, casting blood-red shadows through the windows. Mia Russo wiped down the counter for the 100th time, her hands moving on autopilot. At 24, she'd perfected the art of survival. Head down, work hard, pay another impossible hospital bill. Her mother, Elena, was dying. Stage 4 cancer didn't care about empty bank accounts or unanswered prayers. All Elena had was morphine and a velvet box she clutched even in sleep, containing a ring she refused to sell, no matter how desperate they became. The door chimed. Mia didn't look up immediately. Eye contact with the wrong person in this neighborhood could be dangerous. But sudden silence made her skin prickle. The handful of regulars had frozen mid-bite, staring at the entrance. He stood in the doorway like he owned not just the diner, but the entire city. Custom-tailored black suit, Italian leather shoes, the quiet confidence of a predator who'd never known fear. His face was sharp angles and cold beauty, dark hair pushed back from features that could have been carved from marble. But his eyes, storm gray and absolutely ruthless, those were what stopped her breath. Within seconds, the diner emptied. Only Mia remained, plus Joey the cook, hiding in back, and this dangerous stranger who chose the darkest corner booth. Mia grabbed a menu with trembling fingers. "Welcome to Rosie's. What can I get you?" He didn't glance at the menu. Those gray eyes locked onto hers with sniper precision. "Espresso double." His voice was gravel and smoke, traced with Sicilian heritage. "Coming right up." She fled to the coffee machine where Joey whispered urgently, "That's Dante Valente, Don Valente's son. They own half of Brooklyn. Ruthless doesn't begin to cover it." Everyone knew the Valente name, an empire built on blood and loyalty. Mia's hands shook preparing the espresso. When she served it, his hand emerged from his sleeve, and Mia's world stopped. On his right ring finger gleamed a ring that stole her breath. Heavy gold etched with a phoenix rising from flames, wings spread wide. A single ruby set as its eye, the band crafted to look like tongues of fire. Impossible. Identical. She'd seen that exact ring her whole life in her mother's velvet box. Same phoenix, same ruby eye, same fire band. Elena had said it was one of a kind, given by Mia's grandfather on his deathbed. "Keep it safe," Elena would whisper. "It's proof. Proof of what was stolen." The words escaped before Mia could stop them. "My mother has a ring exactly like yours." Dante Valente froze. Slowly he set down the cup, glacial eyes lifting, casual dismissal gone, replaced by lethal focus. "Say that again," he commanded, voice dropping dangerously. Mia's survival instinct screamed, "Run!" But the image of Elena clutching that identical ring kept her rooted. The ring, the phoenix with the ruby eye. "My mother has the same one, exactly the same." Something unreadable crossed his face. He examined the ring as if seeing it for the first time. "Impossible. This ring has been in the Valente family for 3 generations. There is only one. There has only ever been one." "But there isn't," Mia insisted desperately. "I've seen it my whole life." "Then your mother is either a liar or a thief." Dante leaned forward, temperature dropping. "Because the only way she has that ring is if it's the one stolen from my family 30 years ago. And in my family, we deal with thieves in very specific ways." The threat hung deadly in the air. Mia found her voice, her spine. "She's not a thief." Dante stood, pulling out $100 bills, more than she made in a week, for the coffee. His smile was sharp enough to cut. "Tell your mother the Valentes always collect what's ours. Always." He moved toward the door, but Mia's fury erupted. "She's not a thief." He paused without turning. "Then prove it. 48 hours. The door swung shut. The bell's chime sounded like a death knell. Mia stood frozen, knowing her simple observation had set something catastrophic in motion. The hospital drive was a blur. Elena looked smaller each day, translucent skin over bird bones, but her eyes still sharp when they opened. "Mama, I need the truth about the ring." Elena's body went rigid. The monitor spiked. "What happened?" "I saw it." The same ring on Dante Valente's hand. Color drained from Elena's face. Valente. Holy Mary, they found us. Mama, please. The deposit box. First National. Box 237. Elena's grip crushed despite her weakness. But listen, your father wasn't a thief. The ring was his birthright, stolen before you were born. I don't understand. Your father wasn't just Marco Russo. Elena's tears flowed. He was Marco Valentini, the old Don's nephew. Mia's world shattered. Her gentle father born into the Mafia. He fell in love with me, a nobody. His family forbade it. Elena smiled through tears. But Marco chose me, walked away from everything, changed his name, took construction work, built us a small life. The ring given to Marco on his 18th birthday, a symbol of the Valente bloodline, proof of lineage. When he left, he took it. The family saw it as theft. Giovanni Valente swore Marco would die. The pieces clicked sickeningly into place. They waited 16 years, let him build a life, then killed him. Giovanni is patient, cruel. He wanted Marco to suffer first, to have something precious, then lose it all. Elena sobbed. The accident was murder, a message. 48 hours had become 46, and Mia's life would never be the same. 3 days later, the name arrived encrypted from Genevieve Adler, Dante's lawyer, Owen Calloway. The name meant nothing to Dante. He searched Valente Holdings databases, employee records, contractors, a century of dealings. Nothing. Too clean. Genevieve appeared at his office door, a severe woman in a tailored suit, holding a thin file. You won't like this. Inside were public records. A birth certificate, Elena and Calloway, Wilmington, Delaware, Father Owen Calloway. Then another document, a patent application from 1968, inventor Owen Calloway, novel gearing system for high-torque industrial turbines. Status: withdrawn. Dante's blood ran cold. He recognized the schematic, a primitive precursor to the Valente Mark III turbine that catapulted his grandfather's company to a global powerhouse in the early 70s, credited solely to William Valente. Application withdrawn October 12, 1968, Genevieve stated. October 14, Owen Calloway deposited $50,000. Quit his job a week later, never worked in engineering again. Died of a heart attack 6 years later at 42. NDA. Cash payoff. A brilliant idea bought and buried. My grandfather stole his invention and paid him to be quiet, Dante said, the words like ash in his mouth. The $50,000 was likely a consulting fee to keep it legal. No paper trail. Your grandfather was meticulous. And the ring? That's strange. Genevieve slid another document. Jeweler who bought Dubois Atelier assets. Ancient records, but meticulous ledgers. In 1922, Alaric Valente commissioned 2 identical Phoenix signet rings. Paid for both. Artisan's note in the margin. She slid the translation. One for the builder, one for the dreamer. May they fly together. 2 rings. The family ghost story was true. So Calloway didn't steal it, Dante murmured. Someone gave it to him. But who? Why? The puzzle was no longer about a waitress. It was about his family's bedrock, built not on resilience, but lies. He had to speak to her again. Mia was wiping down the counter when Dante appeared in the doorway, city lights framing him in darkness. Ms. Russo, I need to speak with you. Outside, the cool night air and loud city sounds stood in stark contrast to the tense silence between them. Your grandfather, Owen Calloway. Not a question. Mia flinched. How? Yes. What of it? Engineer. Filed a patent in 1968 for a turbine gear system. My grandfather launched a turbine based on an identical design, made my family a fortune. Calloway withdrew the patent, accepted cash. Mia's mind went blank. Her mother never spoke of Owen's work, only sadness. I don't know anything about that. I think you do. Or your mother does. Dante's voice sharpened. This isn't about a stolen ring. This is about a shakedown. You're using this old story to leverage money for medical bills. The accusation was so cruel, it knocked the air from her lungs. Tears of rage sprang to her eyes. How dare you? My mother is dying. You think this is about money? This is about honor. The honor of a man you admitted your family probably robbed. For the first time, Dante looked taken aback. He saw not a schemer, but a daughter pushed to breaking. My grandfather told my mother that ring was proof, Mia continued, her voice rising. Proof he was wronged. He didn't take a payoff. He was threatened. Forced to sign away his life's work to protect his family from men like your grandfather. That money wasn't payment. It was hush money. Dante was silent. The city sounds rushing in, his certainty eroding. There were 2 rings, he said, his voice losing its edge. My great-grandfather had 2 made. Family story is one brother was a traitor cast out. He looked at her, searching. Was your grandfather friends with someone from my family? I've never heard any Valente names except yours. Impasse. 2 families, 2 rings, 2 histories intersecting at a single disputed point. My mother has the ring, Mia said, resolve hardening. You have your story. I have mine. I'm going to find out which is true. Dante gave a sharp nod, condescension gone, replaced by grudging respect. So am I. He disappeared into the shadows, leaving Mia with a chilling realization. Their quest for truth was now inextricably, dangerously linked. That night, Mia returned to the hospital with urgency. She found Elena sitting up, looking stronger. Mom, we need to talk. No more secrets. Elena sighed, closed her book. I knew this day would come. Dante Valente found me. Knows about Granddad Owen. Thinks we're blackmailing him. Elena's expression hardened. Blackmail. Your grandfather was a genius. A gentle soul who thought the world worked on merit. He developed that turbine on his own time. His masterpiece. She paused, gazed distant. He mentioned it to a colleague, trusting him. That colleague left for a senior position at Valente Industries. 6 months later, your grandfather received a visit from 2 men, persuaders. They worked for William Valente. The room felt cold. What did they do? They didn't touch him. Smarter than that. Laid photographs on our kitchen table, pictures of me in the schoolyard, your grandmother leaving the grocery store. They told him what a beautiful family he had. Would be a shame if something happened. Elena's voice dropped. Then the papers. An NDA contract assigning the rights to Shell Corporation. An envelope of cash. Gangster tactics. He signed everything. What choice? Took the money because refusing would have been defiance, and he was too scared. We moved. He was broken. Mia, they didn't just steal his work. They stole his soul. Died 6 years later. But the truth is, they killed him that day. Tears streamed down Mia's face, finally understanding the deep sadness in her mother. But the ring, Mom, where does it fit? After Owen was forced out, he fell into depression. But one man sought him out, introduced himself only as Daniel. Said he'd heard what happened. Understood being betrayed by a powerful family. They became friends, 2 broken men finding solace. Elena looked intense. Before Daniel left town, he gave Owen the ring, told him it symbolized a shared dream between brothers, forged in hope, tainted by greed. Keep it as proof integrity has value money can't buy. One day the phoenix will rise for the right person. So this Daniel wasn't a traitor. He was another victim. Gave his birthright to another wronged man as solidarity. There's more, Elena whispered. Daniel told Owen there was proof, documents. Evidence that could bring down the entire Valente empire. Hidden where only someone with the right blood could find it. Owen wrote it down. The phoenix knows where the phoenix flies. Mia's heart raced. Her grandfather had hidden something else. Something dangerous enough to die for. And somewhere in this city it waited to be found. First National Bank's lobby smelled like old money and older secrets. Mia had barely slept, surviving on black coffee and adrenaline. She dressed carefully, a black dress, the kind worn to funerals or final confrontations. Security eyed her suspiciously. She didn't belong in this marble temple. But the key to box 237 was real, worn from Elena's anxious handling. I need to access my safety deposit box. Mia told Mrs. Chen, the severe clerk. Identification and key, please. Mrs. Chen's fingers flew across the keyboard, then paused. Her expression shifted, not fear, but weariness. One moment. She disappeared into the back office. Through the glass, Mia saw her make an urgent call. Something was wrong. Mrs. Chun returned with a forced smile. Right this way. The vault was underground, stairs descending like entering a tomb. Solid steel walls, recycled air. Mrs. Chun used her key with Mia's. Box 237 slid out with a metallic whisper. I'll give you privacy, Mrs. Chun said. But her eyes said, I've made a call. They're coming. The door closed. Mia was alone with her father's final secret. Inside the box was a velvet case. Dark blue, worn, held by hands trembling. She opened it. The phoenix ring gleamed, identical to Dante's. Same gold work, same ruby eye burning like captured fire. But lifting it, she noticed tiny letters engraved inside the band, almost invisible. She tilted it toward the light. An Italian inscription. Sanguama sangu fidel, blood calls to blood, always loyal. Beneath the ring was an envelope, yellowed, sealed with red wax bearing a phoenix imprint. Her father's, Marco's handwriting. Asterisk for Mia when she's old enough to understand. Asterisk 24 felt old enough. She broke the seal with shaking fingers. A single page in Marco's familiar hand, reflecting the urgency of a dying man's confession. My sweet Mia. Asterisk if you're reading this, Elena told you the truth about who I was. Who you are. The ring you hold is proof of the Valente bloodline. One of two forged in 1922 by the master jeweler for Alaric Valente. Alaric gave one to his son Lorenzo, one to his son Giovanni, symbols of unity and shared power. But power corrupts even brothers. When Lorenzo died, Giovanni took everything: business, loyalty, respect. Said Lorenzo was weak. Gave Lorenzo's ring to his own heir, erased Lorenzo from family history, and tried to erase me. This ring is twin to the one Giovanni's heir wears, proves the Valente line split, that there were two heirs. I took it when I left because it was proof I existed. Proof my father existed. Proof Giovanni's claim to absolute power was a lie. Asterisk I know Giovanni. He will wait, plan to strike when it brings maximum suffering. If I'm dead, he's won. But you, my daughter, you carry both bloodlines. You're the bridge no one saw coming. There's more. Another secret Giovanni killed to protect. I found proof that could bring down the entire Valente Empire. I hid it where only someone with my blood could find it. The phoenix knows where the phoenix flies. Be careful who you trust. The Valentes eat their own. Asterisk your father, who loved you more than life. Asterisk Marco. Mia read it 3 times, her heart thundering. Her father had hidden something else, something dangerous. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Multiple. Heavy. Purposeful. Mia shoved the letter into her purse, closed the ring in her fist. The door opened. Dante Valente stood there, flanked by 2 men, muscle in inexpensive suits. Behind them, Mrs. Chun hovered nervously. I thought I'd save you the trip, Dante said, his voice silk over steel. Give me the ring, Mia. This is a bank. Cameras, witnesses. Cameras are off. Witnesses are paid. Dante stepped into the small room, the walls closing in. You're out of time. Give me the ring. Mia's fingers tightened. My father's letter says this ring belonged to Lorenzo Valente. That I'm a Valente, whether you acknowledge it or not. Something flickered in Dante's eyes. You read his confession. I read his truth. Lorenzo Valente had a son. Marco was your cousin, which makes me nothing. Dante cut off the uncertainty in his voice. Now, family is more than blood. It's loyalty. Your father betrayed that. Giovanni betrayed Lorenzo, erased his own nephew from history. Enough. Dante's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist, not violently, but with absolute authority. His skin was warm against hers. They both froze at the contact, eyes locked, storm gray and turbulent, searching. The ring now. No. Dante's jaw clenched. He could take it. They both knew. But he didn't move. Instead, he leaned closer, his voice dropping dangerously intimate. You have no idea what you're playing with. That ring is a declaration of war. If the family sees you with it, knows who you are. He stopped, something like concern cracking his icy exterior. You think you're fighting for your father's memory? You're signing your own death warrant. Then why warn me instead of just taking it? The question hung between them, charged with something neither could name. Dante's grip on her wrist loosened but didn't release. Up close, she could see the faint scar along his jaw, the weight of sleepless nights, and the shadows under his eyes. Because, he said finally, his voice barely a whisper, your father was right about one thing. Blood calls to blood. And like it or not, we're bound by it now. He released her wrist, stepped back. Keep the ring for now. But tomorrow night you come to the Valente estate. Bring that ring and your father's letter. We're settling this the old way, with truth, with proof, with family council as witness. And if I refuse? Dante's smile was cold, but not cruel. Then I stop being generous, and you stop breathing. He turned to leave, paused. One more thing. Your father mentioned hiding proof that could destroy us. If you find it, if you even think about using it, understand you won't just be declaring war on me. You'll be declaring war on every family in New York. Think about whether your mother can survive that kind of attention. He left, the men following like shadows. The vault door closed with a hollow boom. Mia stood alone, the ring burning in her palm, her father's letter heavy in her purse, the summons to the lion's den ringing in her ears. Tomorrow night, the Valente estate, truth and consequences. The phoenix knows where the phoenix flies. Somewhere in this city, her father had hidden evidence that could bring down an empire, and Dante Valente had just told her exactly how much he feared it. Mia didn't return to the diner. She couldn't face normalcy when her entire world had been rewritten in her father's handwriting. Instead, she walked Brooklyn's streets as the afternoon sun slanted through buildings, turning everything golden and dangerous. The phoenix knows where the phoenix flies. Where would a phoenix fly? Where would her father, careful, paranoid, hunted, hide something so explosive? Her phone rang. Unknown number. Stop following me, Mia said without preamble. Dante's dark laugh crackled through the speaker. I'm not following you. I'm protecting you. From what? From the 40 men who want you dead. The words spread like poison. Mia. The old guard knows Lorenzo Valente's line didn't die. They know there's a girl with a ring that challenges Giovanni's legacy. And they're not as patient as I am. Mia glanced over her shoulder. A black SUV 3 cars back. But now she noticed others. A sedan with tinted windows. A motorcycle at the corner. Too many coincidences. You're using me as bait. I'm keeping you alive long enough to get answers. He paused. Where are you going? I don't know yet. Liar. You're solving your father's riddle. He said it like he'd been puzzling it out, too. Marco was a construction worker after leaving the family. Worked for Castiano Brothers for 15 years. They built half of Brooklyn, including the old Valente headquarters. Mia finished, the pieces clicking into place. Before your family moved to the estate, you operated out of a building in Red Hook. Papa helped build it. The building's been abandoned for years. Condemned. Dante's voice grew sharp with warning. Don't, Mia. Don't go there alone. It's not safe. Why? What's there? Ghosts, memories, blood soaked into the concrete. That's where Giovanni executed traitors, made examples. Your father watched men die in that building. Is that really where you want to search? But Mia was already hailing a cab, the address burning in her mind. I'll see you tomorrow night at your estate. With answers. She hung up before he could argue. The building rose from the broken pavement like a rotting tooth. Gray concrete scarred with graffiti and time. Windows gaped like empty eye sockets. The entrance was chained with warnings about structural collapse. Mia found a service entrance in the alley. A rusted padlock broke under a rock. The door groaned open, darkness swallowing her whole. Inside, the air was thick with decay and old violence. Her phone's flashlight cut a weak beam through the dark, illuminating graffiti and rat droppings. She climbed stairs that creaked ominously. The fourth-floor door was different from the others, marked with a faded phoenix symbol most would mistake for graffiti, but Mia recognized the style. Her father used to doodle phoenixes. The door was locked, but the frame was rotted. One kick and it splintered open. The room beyond took her breath away, an office frozen in time. A desk, filing cabinets, a chair, all covered in dust. But on the wall behind the desk was a mural, a massive phoenix, wings spread across the entire wall, rising from flames that seemed to dance. In the phoenix's chest, where its heart would be, was a safe, embedded in the wall. Mia approached with trembling hands. The combination lock was old, mechanical. She tried her birthday, nothing. Her parents' anniversary, nothing. Then she remembered the inscription in the ring. Blood calls to blood, always loyal. The date Lorenzo Valente died. Her grandfather she'd never known. She tried those numbers, her fingers clumsy with hope. The safe clicked. The door swung open. Inside were documents, yellowed papers, photographs, ledgers, a note in her father's handwriting. Asterisk for Mia. For justice. For truth. She pulled out the first photograph and nearly dropped it. It showed a younger Giovanni Valente with city officials, politicians, police captains, all smiling, complicit. The next showed bags of cash exchanged. The ledgers documented payoffs, bribes, murders disguised as accidents, blackmail reaching the highest levels of New York power. This wasn't just mafia business. This was proof of a corruption network that owned the city. The final document was a death certificate for Lorenzo Valente. Cause heart attack. But clipped to it was an autopsy report from a doctor whose name appeared in the ledger receiving monthly payments. Amended cause, in handwritten notes. Poisoning, arsenic administered over months. Giovanni Valente hadn't just taken his brother's empire. He'd murdered him for it. Footsteps echoed in the stairwell, multiple sets. Heavy, professional. Mia's heart stopped. She shoved the documents into her bag. The footsteps grew closer. Voices now low and purposeful. Saw her come in. Orders are clear. Nothing left behind. They weren't Dante's men. She knew with bone-deep certainty. These were the old guard. She looked frantically around. One window was painted shut. One door leading to the hallway where death climbed toward her. The Phoenix mural seemed to watch with knowing eyes. She ran to the window, used the chair to smash through the glass. The drop was 3 stories to the alley below. Survivable if lucky, fatal if not. Footsteps reached the door. She's in there. Mia climbed onto the ledge, the night air cold against her face. The documents clutched in one hand, her father's ring in the other. The door burst open. 3 men, guns drawn, eyes cold as execution. Mia jumped. The fall lasted forever and no time at all. She hit a dumpster, the impact driving the air from her lungs, pain exploding through her ribs. But she was alive, gasping, crying, alive. Shouts from above. They were coming. She rolled off the dumpster, nearly collapsing from pain, and ran, limped, dragged herself through alleys, through streets, each breath a knife. A car screeched beside her. The door flew open. Get in. Dante's voice was sharp with command and fear. Mia threw herself into the car. It was moving before the door closed. Through the rear window she saw the men emerging, raising weapons. Dante swerved hard. Bullets sparked off the pavement where they'd just been. Are you insane? He shouted, his hands white-knuckled on the... Okay, here's the rewritten version of the text, focusing on expanding the narrative, exploring the characters' emotions, and using richer, more descriptive language while maintaining the original plot and not adding new information. Will, I told you not to go alone. You followed me. Of course I followed you. You have a death wish. But his eyes, when they darted towards her, were clouded with a deep, palpable concern. Are you hurt? Ribs? Ribs may be broken. He cursed under his breath, a string of Italian epithets escaping his lips. Hospital. No, they'll find me. She clutched the bag tighter, her knuckles white. I got it. The proof. Everything. Papa died to protect it. Dante's jaw clenched, the muscle ticking in his cheek. What did you find? The truth about how your uncle built his empire on murder, bribery, and his brother's corpse. The car fell silent. The only sounds the guttural roar of the engine and Mia's ragged, labored breathing. Dante sped them out of Brooklyn, across the bridge, and into the oppressive darkness that lay just beyond the city's glittering edge. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere even the family can't reach. He spared her a glance, his expression a complex tapestry of emotions. Anger, certainly, and something akin to admiration, but also something deeper, more profound. Tomorrow night's meeting just became a whole lot more dangerous for both of us. Why are you helping me? The question hung in the air between them, heavy and unspoken. Dante's hands tightened their grip on the steering wheel. Because you're right about my uncle, about the empire being built on lies. He turned his head, meeting her gaze fully. There was a raw vulnerability in his eyes, a stark honesty that stole her breath away. And because you're the first person in my entire life who's ever told me the truth, even when it could get you killed. Dante drove for what felt like an eternity, finally pulling up to a cabin nestled deep within the woods upstate. So far removed from the relentless pulse of the city, the stars actually shone with a fierce, almost forgotten brilliance. The cabin was rustic but possessed a certain undeniable comfort, whispering of secrets and profound solitude. This is where I come when I need to think, Dante said, carefully helping her out of the car, his hand resting gently on her elbow, acutely aware of her injuries. No one knows about it, not even my closest men. Inside, he guided her to a worn leather couch, its surface cool against her skin. Then he disappeared into another room. Mia sat there, clutching the bag to her chest, each breath sending a searing fire through her ribs. The adrenaline that had been coursing through her veins began to recede, leaving her utterly drained. The documents felt impossibly heavy, as if they weighed 1,000 pounds. Dante returned carrying a first aid kit and a bottle of whiskey. I'm not a doctor, but I've treated enough broken ribs to know the basics. He knelt before her, his usual cold authority replaced by a focused, almost unnerving concern. This is going to hurt. Everything hurts, Mia whispered, her voice barely audible. His fingers were surprisingly gentle as he helped her out of her jacket, carefully lifting her shirt just enough to examine the extent of the damage. The bruising was spectacular, a grotesque tapestry of purple and black spreading across her rib cage. Nothing's broken. I think it's severely bruised. He wrapped her ribs with practiced efficiency, his hands warm against her skin. You're lucky. 3 stories onto a dumpster, you should be dead. Papa always said I was stubborn enough to survive anything. Dante's hands paused in their ministrations. He looked up, his face just inches from hers, and for the first time, she saw past the formidable Mafia boss to the man beneath the carefully constructed facade. Marco was my cousin. I barely remember him. I was young when he left, but I remember he was kind. He paused, his gaze troubled. Giovanni said he was weak, but now I wonder if kindness was his real crime. Did you know? Mia asked, her voice laced with apprehension. Did you know Lorenzo was poisoned? No. The word was heavy, laden with something akin to grief. I knew the official story. Heart attack, natural causes. Giovanni always spoke of Lorenzo with contempt, as if he died of weakness. He finished wrapping her ribs and sat back on his heels. Show me what you found. With trembling hands, Mia pulled the documents from the bag, spreading them across the coffee table. Photographs, meticulously kept ledgers, a doctor's death certificate. Dante studied each one with grim intensity, his expression growing darker and colder with each passing moment, until he looked like a storm about to break. This is treason, he said finally, his voice low and dangerous. Not just against the family, but against everything we're supposed to stand for. Honor, loyalty. He laughed bitterly, the sound devoid of any humor. We're criminals, yes, but we had a code. This, he gestured to the damning evidence of corruption. This is just evil. Your uncle killed his own brother and built an empire on his corpse. What are you going to do about it? Dante stood abruptly, pacing the room like a caged wolf, his energy palpable. Giovanni is old now, retired. I run the family. But the old guard, the men who helped him build this nightmare, they're still in power. Underbosses, captains, soldiers who've committed murders based on lies. He turned to face her, his eyes burning with a fierce intensity. If I expose this tomorrow night at the council, it won't just destroy Giovanni's legacy. It'll tear the entire family apart. There will be blood, war. He paused, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. And if I don't, then everything your father died for means nothing. Lorenzo's murder goes unpunished. The corruption continues. He came back to the couch, sitting beside her, close enough that she could feel the radiating heat of his body. And you stay in danger forever because the old guard will never stop hunting you. They sat in silence, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on them. Outside, the wind whispered through the towering pine trees, their branches swaying in the darkness. Inside, the fire that Dante had built crackled merrily, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Why did you really bring me here? Mia asked quietly, breaking the oppressive silence. You could have taken me to a safe house, surrounded by guards, but you brought me to your private place. Why? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the flickering flames. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough, gravelly with emotion. Because every man in my organization would have reported to someone, would have told the council, would have picked a side. He turned to look at her, his gray eyes filled with an intensity that made her breath catch in her throat. But I needed time to think, without pressure, without politics. I needed to figure out what I believe, not what I should believe. And what do you believe? That you're either the bravest or the most foolish woman I've ever met. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. That your father was murdered for being honorable in a world that punishes honor. That my entire life has been built on my uncle's lies. He reached out slowly, giving her ample time to pull away, and gently brushed a stray strand of hair from her face. And that you've turned my world upside down in less than 48 hours. The simple touch sent a jolt of electricity coursing through Mia's body. She knew she should pull away. He was Dante Valente, the enemy, the reason her father was dead. But his hand lingered, cupping her cheek with a surprising tenderness, and she found herself inexplicably leaning into it. I should hate you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You should, he agreed, his voice equally low. I should hate you too. You're a threat to everything I've built, everything I am. He paused, the confession seeming to cost him a great deal. But I don't. From the moment you stood in that diner and defended your father's honor, when you should have been terrified, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. Your courage, your fire, the way you look at me like I'm just a man, not a monster to fear. Mia's heart hammered against her bruised ribs, a frantic rhythm against the pain. You are just a man. A complicated, dangerous man with blood on his hands, but just a man. Dante's thumb traced the delicate curve of her cheekbone. I've killed people, Mia. I've done terrible things in the name of the family, of business, of power. Your father, my cousin. I could have protected him if I'd known. But I was too young, too blind, too trusting of Giovanni's version of history. You can't change the past, Mia said, her hand coming up to cover his. But you can change what happens next. You have the power to make this right. At what cost? His voice was laced with weariness. War with the old guard, blood in the streets, my own death, possibly at the cost of finally being the man you pretend to be. Pretend to be, Mia challenged, her gaze unwavering. You say you're cleaning up the family, making it honorable. Prove it. Stand with the truth. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. They were so close now, breathing the same air. The space between them crackled with an unspoken tension, charged with everything they couldn't or wouldn't say. Dante's eyes dropped to her lips, and Mia's pulse thundered in her ears. "If I do this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "If I stand with you tomorrow night, it changes everything. You understand that? It won't be Valente against Russo. It'll be us against them. Together." "Together?" Mia echoed, the words seeming to break something within him. He leaned forward slowly, giving her every opportunity to stop what was about to happen. But Mia didn't pull away. She met him halfway, and when their lips finally touched, it was like setting a match to gasoline. The kiss was everything it shouldn't be. Desperate, dangerous, perfect. Dante's hand slid into her hair, his touch gentle despite the fierce passion that consumed them, mindful of her injuries. Mia's good hand fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, tasting whiskey and danger and something that felt impossibly like hope. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "This is insane," he murmured, the words laced with self-awareness. "Completely," Mia agreed, her voice trembling slightly. "Tomorrow night could end with both of us dead." "I know." His grip tightened almost imperceptibly. "And I'm still going to do it. I'm going to stand with you, present that evidence, and let the family burn if it has to." He cupped her face in both hands, his gaze intense. "Because you're right. Because my cousin deserves justice. Because Lorenzo deserves the truth. And because I'm tired of being the monster everyone expects me to be." They spent the rest of the night talking, planning, preparing for the battle that lay ahead. Dante told her about the intricate structure of the family, who would likely stand with them, and who would undoubtedly oppose them. Mia meticulously studied the documents, memorizing the crucial details, bolstering their case. As dawn broke, painting the rustic cabin in soft shades of gold, they stood together at the window, watching the sunrise. "Whatever happens tonight," Dante said, taking her hand in his, "know that you changed me. In 2 days you made me question everything. Fight for something real." She squeezed his hand in return, feeling the cool metal of his phoenix ring against her skin. "We're going to win. We have the truth, and the truth is a weapon they can't fight." "I hope you're right." He turned to her, his expression serious. "But if things go wrong, if it looks like we're losing, you run. Take those documents and disappear. Promise me. I'm not leaving you. Promise me, Mia," he pleaded, the urgency clear in his voice. He saw the fear flickering beneath his strength. Not fear for himself, but fear for her. "I promise," she whispered, the words heavy with unspoken emotion. Dante nodded slowly, then pulled her into his arms, being careful of her bruised ribs, and held her close as the sun climbed higher in the sky. Tonight, they would walk into the lion's den. Tonight, they would face the monsters who had killed their fathers. Tonight, the phoenix would either rise from the ashes in glory, or burn completely to the ground. The Valente estate sprawled across 20 meticulously manicured acres of Long Island waterfront, a veritable fortress disguised as a symbol of opulent elegance. High walls, armed guards stationed at every entrance, surveillance cameras that missed nothing. Mia had dressed carefully for the occasion, choosing a simple black dress, and wearing her father's ring on a chain around her neck, hidden beneath the fabric of her dress. In her bag was enough incriminating evidence to bring down an entire criminal empire. Dante had left before dawn to finalize preparations, to position his allies, to prepare the battlefield. He'd kissed her before leaving, a kiss that was hard and desperate, like a soldier heading off to war. Now, as his car returned to collect her, Mia felt the full weight of what they were about to do pressing down on her. Inside that heavily guarded estate were men who had killed for far less than what she was about to accuse them of. The driver met her eyes in the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable. "Boss says to tell you, the Phoenix rises at midnight." Midnight. The council meeting was scheduled to start at 8. For hours to present their case. To watch a family tear itself apart. To either survive or die trying. The estate's main house was a gaudy monument to blood money. Marble floors gleamed underfoot, crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and priceless works of art adorned the walls. walls that had undoubtedly witnessed unspeakable acts of violence. The staff moved like ghosts, their eyes averted, careful to avoid drawing attention. Dante met her in the grand entrance hall, resplendent in a black suit that made him look every inch the Prince of Darkness. But his eyes, when they found hers, held an unexpected warmth, a flicker of reassurance. "You came," he said simply, his voice low. "Did you doubt I would? I hoped you wouldn't. I hoped you'd choose safety." He offered her his arm. "But I'm glad you didn't." He led her through seemingly endless corridors lined with portraits of Valente patriarchs, their faces hard, their eyes even harder. Near the end of the hall, she stopped before a portrait of Giovanni Valente in his prime. Mia found herself staring into the face of the man who had ordered her father's death. "He's here," Dante said quietly, sensing her turmoil. "Giovanni. I couldn't keep him away. This is still his house, his council. He's old, supposedly retired, but the old guard still answers to him." They reached a set of heavy oak doors. Beyond them, she could hear the murmur of voices, gruff, powerful men accustomed to being obeyed. Dante squeezed her hand once, a silent gesture of support. "Stay close. Don't speak unless asked directly, and if the shooting starts, run." The doors swung open. The council room was exactly as she had expected. A long table of dark wood dominated the space, surrounded by high-backed chairs occupied by men in expensive suits, the air thick with the acrid smell of cigar smoke. At the head of the table sat Giovanni Valente, ancient and withered, but with eyes that were still as sharp as those of a predator. The conversation died abruptly as Mia entered the room. 20 pairs of eyes tracked her movements with varying degrees of curiosity, suspicion, and outright hostility. "Gentlemen," Dante said, his voice commanding the room, silencing the whispers and sidelong glances. "Thank you for convening. I've brought someone with information relevant to our family's history and future." "You brought a woman to the council?" A burly man with a scarred face spoke, his voice a low growl. "This is sacred space, Dante. No outsiders." "She's not an outsider." With a deliberate gesture, Dante pulled out a chair for Mia at his right hand, a position of both honor and protection. "This is Mia Russo, daughter of Marco Russo, who some of you knew as Marco Valentini, Lorenzo Valente's son, my cousin." The room exploded in a cacophony of shouts, curses, and vehement denials. Hands instinctively moved toward concealed weapons. But Dante raised his hand, and his inherent authority silenced the uproar. "She has proof of her lineage, and more importantly, proof of crimes that have poisoned this family for 30 years. Giovanni spoke, his voice like the grating of bones. "This is a trick, Dante. Marco Valentini died childless. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows the lie you told," Mia said, finding her voice despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. She stood, pulling the chain from beneath her dress. The phoenix ring swung free, glinting in the light, and a collective gasp swept through the room. "The twin ring," someone whispered, their voice filled with awe. "It exists. Impossible." Giovanni snarled, his eyes blazing with fury. "That ring was destroyed when Lorenzo died." "No," Mia interrupted, meeting the old man's gaze head-on. "That ring was given to Lorenzo's son, my father, as proof of his birthright. The birthright you stole when you poisoned your own brother." An absolute silence descended on the room, heavier and more suffocating than the cigar smoke. Then, Giovanni laughed, a cruel, mocking sound that sent a shiver down Mia's spine. "Poisoned? Lorenzo died of a weak heart. He died of arsenic poisoning, administered over 6 months." Mia pulled the damning documents from her bag, her hands surprisingly steady despite the turmoil within her. "I have the real autopsy report. I have ledgers showing payments to the doctor who falsified the death certificate. I have photographs of you with city officials taking bribes, ordering murders." "Lies!" Giovanni roared, rising to his feet, his face contorted with rage. "This girl is a con artist, Dante. Can't you see? To what end, uncle? Dante's voice was like ice, devoid of any emotion. To get herself killed? To tear apart the family for fun? He took the documents from Mia and began passing them around the table. Look at them. These are in your handwriting, Giovanni. Your signatures, your crimes. The council members studied the evidence with growing horror. Some were learning the truth for the first time, while others were seeing irrefutable proof of the crimes they had participated in, now laid bare for all to see. You killed Lorenzo, Dante continued, his voice tight with controlled rage. You erased his son from family history. You ordered Marco's murder 16 years ago because he might tell the truth. And you built our empire on a foundation of corruption that makes us no better than the criminals we claim to despise. I built this empire from nothing. Giovanni slammed his fist on the table, his eyes wild. Lorenzo was soft, weak. I did what was necessary. You committed fratricide, an older captain shouted, his face flushed with anger. There is no honor in that. Giovanni, you've damned us all. The law is clear, another voice added, filled with grim resolve. Blood calls to blood. If this girl is truly Lorenzo's granddaughter, she has rights. She has nothing. Giovanni pulled a gun from beneath his jacket, his ancient reflexes still alarmingly deadly, and aimed it directly at Mia's heart. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. Mia saw Dante move, instinctively putting his body between her and the gun. She saw other council members drawing their own weapons, choosing sides. The room was about to erupt into a bloody massacre. Stop! A female voice, sharp with authority, cut through the mounting tension. A woman entered the room, elderly but regal, dressed in black and adorned with pearls. The entire room froze. Mama? Dante breathed, his voice filled with a mixture of shock and reverence. Victoria Valente, Giovanni's sister, Dante's grandmother, the matriarch who supposedly never left her rooms. She walked to the table with measured steps, her gaze sweeping the room like a queen surveying her court. When her eyes landed on Mia, they widened with recognition and a profound sorrow. You have Lorenzo's eyes, Victoria said softly, and his stubborn chin. She turned to Giovanni, her voice laced with steel. Put the gun down before I have my grandson put you down. Victoria, this doesn't concern you. It concerns me greatly. Her voice carried the weight of decades. I stood silent when Lorenzo died, believing your lies. I stood silent when you exiled his son, believing it was family business. But I will not stand silent while you point a gun at my great niece. Victoria pulled a faded photograph from her pocket and placed it on the table. It showed two young men, nearly identical in appearance, their arms slung around each other's shoulders, laughing. Lorenzo and Giovanni, before power had corrupted them. I was there when you poisoned him, Victoria said, each word a knife twisting in Giovanni's heart. I didn't understand until years later. The slow decline, the subtle symptoms. I confronted you once, and you threatened me with the same fate. Tears traced lines down her wrinkled cheeks. I've lived with that cowardice for 30 years, but no more. She turned to the council, her gaze unwavering. This girl speaks the truth. Giovanni murdered his brother, exiled his nephew, and built our empire on lies and blood. The question is simple. Do we continue to honor a murderer's legacy, or do we finally choose honor? Utter silence descended on the room. Giovanni's gun wavered, then slowly lowered. He looked suddenly old, deflated, beaten. Dante, Victoria said, her voice firm. What say you? You are the dawn now. The family's future is in your hands. Dante stood tall, his shoulders squared. Giovanni Valente, for the murder of Lorenzo Valente, for crimes against the family, and for violations of our sacred code, I strip you of all titles, all honors, all protections. You are no longer a Valente. You are nothing. The council erupted in a fresh wave of discussion, but Victoria raised her hand, silencing the dissent. Those who stand with the old ways, with Giovanni's corruption, leave now. Those who stand with honor, with Dante, with truth, stay and help us rebuild. One by one, the men made their choices. Some left, their faces etched with resentment and fear. But most stayed, their expressions a mixture of relief and cautious optimism. The phoenix had risen from the ashes, and the Valente Empire would never be the same. The council meeting ended not with violence, but with votes, a restructuring of power, a purging of corruption, the beginning of something new. Giovanni was taken into custody by his own family to face their justice. The old guard was systematically removed, peacefully when possible, forcefully when necessary. Through it all, Dante commanded with steady authority, and Mia stood beside him, a living testament to the fact that truth could indeed win, even in a world built on lies. But as the estate emptied and dawn approached, Mia felt the heavy weight of what came next pressing down on her. She had won justice for her father, exposed the truth, and survived the impossible. Now came the hardest part of all. Walking away, she found Dante on the terrace overlooking the ocean as the first light of dawn painted the sky in pastel hues. He stood with his hands in his pockets, his shoulders tense, radiating a barely controlled emotion. "It's done," Mia said softly, joining him at the railing. Almost. He didn't look at her, his jaw tight, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "You're leaving." It wasn't a question. That was the deal. I get my life back. You get your family back. We both get justice. Justice? He laughed, the sound bitter and broken. Is that what this hollow feeling is? Because it feels more like loss. Dante, don't. He finally turned to her, his eyes filled with an anguish that stole her breath away. Don't make this easier. Don't be understanding or kind. Let me be angry that you're walking away after turning my entire world upside down. You knew this was how it had to end. I'm not part of your world, am I? He stepped closer, his presence a palpable physical force. You stood before the most dangerous men in New York and didn't flinch. You presented evidence that could have gotten you killed with steady hands. You changed the course of a criminal empire in 2 days. How is that not part of this world? Because I don't want it to be. Mia's voice cracked with emotion. I don't want to spend my life looking over my shoulder, wondering if today is the day someone decides I'm a threat. I don't want to watch you make impossible choices, order terrible things, carry the weight of all that blood. She stopped, tears threatening to spill over. What? Tell me what you want, Mia. I want normal. I want to finish college, get a job that doesn't involve bullets or betrayal, maybe fall in love with someone uncomplicated. The words died in her throat as Dante's carefully constructed expression shattered. Someone uncomplicated? He repeated softly, his voice laced with pain. Someone who isn't a criminal. Someone who doesn't have blood on his hands and death in his shadow. He reached out, touching her face with infinite gentleness. Someone who isn't me. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. His thumb brushed away the tears she hadn't even realized had fallen. I'm offering you everything. My protection, my resources, my heart. But I can't offer you normal. I can't offer you safe. And you deserve both. Dante, Mia's voice broke completely. Because he was right. Because she did want normal, but she also wanted him. And those two things existed in direct opposition to each other. Go, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Before I do something selfish, like beg you to stay. I can't just leave you. You can. You will. He pulled something from his pocket, a key. There's an apartment in Manhattan. Penthouse fully paid for in your name. An account set up for your mother's medical care, for your education. Everything you need to build that normal life. Mia stared at the key, her heart cracking with each beat. This is goodbye. This is me letting you go because I love you too much to trap you in my world. The confession hung in the air between them, raw and devastating. I've loved you since you stood in that diner and defended your father's honor. I've loved you through every dangerous, foolish, brave thing you've done. And because I love you, I'm giving you the choice I never had. The choice to walk away. The tears fell freely now, streaming down her face. And if I don't want to walk away, Then I'll spend every day terrified that my world will destroy you, that my enemies will use you against me, that you'll wake up one morning and realize you've become something you never wanted to be." He kissed her forehead, lingering there, memorizing the feel of her skin, the scent of her hair. "I won't do that to you, amore. I won't watch the light die in your eyes because of me. So this is it. We pretend the last 2 days didn't happen?" "No." Dante pulled her close against him, and she felt his heart racing against hers. "We remember them. We carry them with us. And maybe," his voice roughened with emotion, "maybe someday, if you've built that normal life and still want something more, you know where to find me." They stood wrapped in each other's arms as the sun rose fully, painting the world in gold and possibility. Mia breathed him in, the expensive cologne, the ever-present scent of danger, and the man underneath it all. She memorized the feel of his arms around her, the steady beat of his heart, the way he held her like she was both precious and breakable. "I should hate you," she whispered against his chest, the words muffled by his coat. "I know. I should be relieved to escape this world. You should. But all I feel is broken." His arms tightened around her. "Me too, amore. Me too." They pulled apart slowly, reluctantly, like continents drifting apart. Dante placed the key in her hand, his fingers lingering over hers. "Take care of yourself, Mia Russo. Build something beautiful. Be happy." His smile was devastation itself. "And don't look back." Mia wanted to argue, to fight, to refuse this ending, but she saw the resolve in his eyes, the sacrifice he was making because he loved her. And maybe that was what love truly was. Letting someone go, even when it destroyed you. "Goodbye, Dante," she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. She turned and walked away without looking back, even though every step felt like dying. She climbed into the car he had arranged, gave the driver her mother's hospital address, and didn't allow herself to cry until the Valente estate disappeared from view. Then, she shattered completely. 3 months later, Mia moved Elena to a private facility that offered the best care money could buy. Elena's health stabilized, and the treatments were working small miracles. She enrolled at Columbia University studying business because she wanted to build something legitimate, something clean. The penthouse Dante had given her was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, tasteful furniture. Everything she thought she had ever wanted. It was empty. She saw his name in the papers occasionally. Dante Valente restructures family business. Valente Holdings goes legitimate. He was doing it. Everything they had fought for, he was making real. But the articles never included his picture anymore. As if he was deliberately avoiding the spotlight, avoiding her seeing his face and remembering. Mia channeled all her energy into school, caring for Elena, and constructing that semblance of a normal existence. She dated classmates, nice boys with clean hands and uncomplicated aspirations. She forced herself to smile. She manufactured laughter. She pretended her heart wasn't languishing in a mansion on Long Island. Then, one evening, Elena called, her voice laced with unusual urgency. "There's someone here to see you, in the garden." Mia's heart skipped a beat. "Who is it?" "Go see for yourself, baby." The facility's garden was a spectacle in the autumn evening, leaves drifting down like flakes of gold. And there, on a bench nestled beneath a maple tree, sat a figure draped in an expensive coat. It wasn't Dante. It was Victoria Valente. "Mrs. Valente," Mia managed, surprise and disappointment warring within her. "What brings you here?" "Sit, child." Victoria patted the bench beside her. "We need to discuss my headstrong grandson." Mia sat, bewildered. "Is he all right?" "Physically, yes. In every other way, not so much." Victoria's smile was laced with sadness. "He runs the business with dazzling skill. He's transforming the family, honoring Lorenzo's memory, making everything legitimate, just as you desired. But he's a shell of himself, a ghost going through the motions." "I don't understand why you're telling me this." "Because he won't. Because he's too honorable, too self-sacrificing to admit that letting you go shattered him. Victoria took Mia's hand in hers. He believes he's protecting you by staying away. But tell me, child, do you feel protected? Or do you feel like you're missing half your soul? The question landed like a physical blow. Mia had spent the last 3 months desperately trying to convince herself she was content, that this was what she truly wanted. But the truth was, she felt precisely as Victoria described. Empty, incomplete, simply going through the motions of a life that felt borrowed. It doesn't matter what I feel, Mia said, her voice barely a whisper. I'm not a part of that world anymore. What world? Victoria challenged. The legitimate business world? Because that's what we are now. Thanks to you, the Valente family has gone clean. Legal operations, charitable foundations, legitimate power. You transformed us, Mia. You made us into something worthy. But it's still dangerous. Life is dangerous. Love is dangerous. Happiness is dangerous. Because we can lose it. Victoria squeezed Mia's hand. I loved my husband deeply. He was a complicated man, a powerful man, sometimes a dangerous man. But I never regretted a single moment of loving him. Even when that love brought pain. Tears stung Mia's eyes. I'm scared. Of course you are. So is Dante. He's terrified that his world will destroy you. So he destroyed himself instead, to keep you safe. Victoria stood, extracting an envelope from her coat. He doesn't know I'm here. He'd be furious if he did. But I'm an old woman who's witnessed too many people sacrifice happiness for fear. Don't make the same mistake, child. She pressed the envelope into Mia's hands. That's an address. He's there tonight, alone, trying to drink away the memory of you. What you do with that information is your choice. But choose wisely, because this is a choice that will define the rest of your life. Victoria turned and walked away, leaving Mia alone with the envelope and the impossible decision it contained. Inside was a simple address, a cabin upstate. The same cabin where Dante had taken her that first night, where they'd planned their battle, where they'd shared their first kiss. He'd kept it. After everything, he'd held onto their place. The sensible course of action would be to discard the envelope, to continue building her safe, normal life. The sensible course of action would be to forget the dangerous man who'd stolen her heart. But Mia had never been particularly good at making sensible choices. She borrowed her mother's nurse's car and drove. By the time she arrived at the cabin, her heart was threatening to burst from her chest. Lights glowed in the windows. Smoke curled from the chimney. He was there. The cabin door swung open before she could even reach it. Dante stood framed by firelight, disheveled in a way she'd never seen before. His shirt was untucked, his hair a mess, his feet bare. He looked at her as if she were a ghost, a dream, a hallucination. Mia. Her name was a prayer, a question, a plea. Your grandmother is a meddling woman, Mia said, her voice trembling. My grandmother is... He trailed off. Victoria sent you here. She told me you were hollow, dying by inches, going through the motions. Mia stepped closer. Is it true? Dante's laugh was hollow and broken. She had no right. Is it true, Dante? His carefully constructed mask shattered. The control, the authority, the careful distance. All crumbled, leaving only raw, unadulterated truth. Yes, he whispered. Every minute without you feels like dying. Every day of this normal life you wanted for me feels like a prison. But I still believe letting you go was the right decision. What if I disagree? Mia closed the remaining distance between them. What if I've spent the last 3 months trying to build that normal life and all I've built is a beautiful cage? What if safe and boring isn't what I want anymore? Mia, you can't mean. I love you. The words exploded from her, fierce and unstoppable. I've loved you since you stood between me and a gun. Since you chose the truth over the empire. Since you let me go because you thought it would make me happy. But here's the thing, Dante. Nothing makes me happy without you. You deserve better? I deserve to choose. She grabbed his shirt, pulling him close. You gave me a choice, remember? You let me go so I could choose. Well, I'm choosing. I'm choosing complicated and dangerous. And you? The family is legitimate now. You said it yourself. We changed everything. It's not the same world my father ran from. It's not perfect, but it's different. Better. She cupped his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her gaze. And I'm not asking to join the family business. I'm asking to join your life, however that looks, whatever that means. Dante stared at her, as if he were afraid to hope. You're sure? Because once I allow myself to believe this, once I allow myself to have you, I won't be able to let go again. I'm sure. Mia smiled through her tears. I've spent 3 months trying to convince myself I could live without you. I can't. I don't want to. So, you're stuck with me, Dante Valente. For better or worse. For complicated and dangerous and everything in between. The last vestiges of his resistance crumbled. He pulled her close, lifting her off her feet, burying his face in her neck. God. I've missed you every second. Every breath. Then stop wasting time on noble sacrifices and kiss me. He did. And it was like coming home. Like finding a missing piece. Like feeling whole for the first time in months. They kissed like they were drowning and each other was air. Like they were making up for lost time and promising forever simultaneously. When they finally broke apart, both breathless and laughing through their tears, Dante carried her inside, kicking the door shut behind them. He set her down by the fire, then dropped to his knees before her. I want to do this right, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. I bought this the day after you left. Carried it everywhere like a talisman, a reminder of what I'd lost. He opened the box, revealing a ring white gold with a perfect diamond, flanked by 2 smaller stones. It's a phoenix design. Because you're my phoenix, Mia. You rose from the ashes of tragedy and saved me from becoming the monster I was destined to be. Mia, marry me, build a life with me. Not in the shadows, not in fear, but in the light. As equals, as partners. Mia dropped to her knees in front of him. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he kissed her again, and the kiss was a promise of challenges faced together, of happiness fought for and won, of love stronger than fear. The phoenix had risen, and this time it would never fall again. The announcement of Dante Valente's engagement to Mia Russo sent shockwaves through New York society. Some interpreted it as a testament to love, the fall of a dawn to a brave woman who had transformed him. Others viewed it as a strategic maneuver, legitimizing the family through Lorenzo's bloodline. But those closest to them recognized the truth. 2 broken individuals healing each other, 2 phoenixes rising together. Elena Russo wept when they shared the news, but her tears were tears of pure joy. Your father would be so proud, she whispered to Mia, holding both her daughter and Dante's hands. Marco loved you so much, Dante. He spoke so fondly of his little cousin, the boy who asked too many questions and dreamed of setting things right. He would have been thrilled that you found each other. The wedding was slated for the spring, but first came the ongoing work of transformation. Dante had restructured the family operations, but old habits die hard. There were still territories to manage, still men who clung to the old ways and chafed under the new rules. And there were enemies, rival families who perceived the Valente Reformation as a sign of weakness, an opportunity to exploit. Mia threw herself into the Lorenzo and Marco Foundation, working with families ravaged by organized crime. She helped them find justice, secure protection, and begin new lives. And slowly, she began to comprehend her father's world, not just the violence, but the complex web of relationships, the way loyalty could be both beautiful and devastating, the way power could protect or destroy. You're remarkably good at this, Dante remarked one evening, finding her in the Foundation office, surrounded by case files. You possess your father's passion for justice and Lorenzo's strategic mind. I'm learning from the best, Mia replied, pulling him down for a kiss. You've taught me that power isn't inherently evil. It's what you do with it that matters. But the past wasn't quite finished with them yet. 2 months before the wedding, a stranger appeared at the Foundation. He was an old man, weathered with haunted eyes and trembling hands. He asked specifically for Mia Russo, claiming to have information about Marco Valentini's death. Mia met with him in her office, with Dante at her side and security discreetly positioned outside. The man introduced himself as Eddie Russo, clarifying that he was no relation. He had been the foreman at the construction site where Marco had died. "It wasn't an accident," Eddie said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I've carried this guilt for 16 years, but I can't die with this on my soul." He produced photographs, old and faded, depicting the construction site on the day of Marco's death. Giovanni Valentini's men were there. They tampered with the equipment. "I saw them, but I was too afraid to say anything. Your father died because I was a coward." Mia felt the old rage return, the grief resurfacing. But Dante's hand found hers, offering steadiness and grounding. "Giovanni is already facing family justice," Dante said quietly. "He'll spend what's left of his life imprisoned, powerless, watching everything he built transform into something he no longer recognizes. That's a far worse punishment than death for a man like him." "But this man," Eddie looked at Mia with pleading eyes. "Your father, he was kind to me. He talked about his little girl all the time. Showed me pictures. He was so proud of you. I need you to know, he didn't suffer. It was quick." And his last words. Eddie's voice broke completely. He said, "Tell my girls I love them." The tears Mia had been holding back finally fell freely. Dante pulled her close as Eddie continued. "He knew, didn't he?" Mia whispered. "Papa knew they were coming for him. That's why he wrote that letter, hid the evidence. He knew. He chose to face it rather than run. He chose to protect you and your mother over saving himself," Dante said softly. "That's the kind of man he was. The kind of Valente he was." Eddie gave them everything. His testimony, more photographs, documentation that filled in the final pieces of the puzzle. With his evidence combined with what Mia had already found, the case against Giovanni was airtight. As Eddie left, Mia felt something shift within her. The quest for justice that had driven her for months was complete. Giovanni would pay. The truth was out. Her father's name was cleared. Now came the harder work, building a future, not just avenging the past. "I need to do something," Mia said that night, lying in Dante's arms in the penthouse. "Something more than justice, for Papa." "What are you thinking?" "A scholarship fund for the children of construction workers, especially those who've lost parents to workplace accidents." She turned to face him. "In Marco Russo's name. Let his legacy be education, opportunity, a chance to build something better." Dante smiled, a genuine smile, the kind that made him look young and hopeful. "That's perfect. We'll fund it through the foundation. Make it big enough to help hundreds of kids. And I want to expand the foundation's work. Not just families affected by crime, but anyone trapped by circumstances, by systems designed to keep them down. I want to give people the same choice you gave me, the choice to build a different life." "You're going to change the world, aren't you?" Dante said, his voice filled with wonder and pride. "We're going to change it," Mia corrected. "Together." The next challenge came from an unexpected source, Dante's own inner circle. At a meeting of the restructured family leadership, one of the younger captains, a man named Tony who had supported their reforms, posed a question that others were clearly thinking. "What happens to the succession?" Tony asked carefully. "I'm not trying to stir up trouble, but the family needs to know. If something happens to you, Dante, God forbid, who will lead? We're not the same family we were, so the old rules might not apply." It was a fair question. Traditional succession would pass to Dante's closest male relative. But he had no brothers, no sons. His cousins were either too young or had chosen civilian lives. "The succession passes to whoever is best suited to lead," Dante said firmly. "Gender, bloodline, those old prejudices end with us. The next leader will be chosen for their character, their vision, their commitment to the family's new path." He looked at Mia, and she knew what he was thinking even before he said it. "And if Mia chooses to lead alongside me now, and after me someday, then she leads. Lorenzo's granddaughter, Marco's daughter. There's no purer Valente bloodline. No one with more right." The room erupted in discussion. Some supported it immediately. Others needed convincing. But Victoria, present as the family matriarch, raised her hand for silence. "In the old country," she said, her voice carrying with authority, "we had queens as well as kings. Leaders were chosen for wisdom, not just tradition. If Dante says Mia is worthy, and I see that she is, then anyone who opposes her opposes me. Her gaze swept the room, daring anyone to disagree. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Mia was recognized not just as Dante's fiancée, but as the co-leader of the transformed Valente family. It was terrifying and empowering in equal measure. That night, lying awake while Dante slept, Mia reflected on her journey. From waitress to partner to reformed crime boss, co-leader of a family empire, champion of the lost and forgotten. Her father would have been amazed. Or maybe not. Maybe Marco had always known his daughter possessed this inner strength. She took off the phoenix ring, her father's ring, now hers by right, and studied it in the moonlight. The ruby eye seemed to wink at her, knowing and proud. "We did it, Papa," she whispered. "We changed everything just like you hoped we would." Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would be enemies to face, reforms to implement, a family to guide into an uncertain future. But tonight, Mia Russo, Mia Valentini to be, felt at peace. The phoenix had risen, the empire was transformed, and love had triumphed over fear. The foundations were laid. Now came the building. Spring arrived in New York like a promise fulfilled, painting the city with blossoms and possibility. Mia stood before a full-length mirror in a suite at the Plaza Hotel, barely recognizing the woman staring back. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece of elegant simplicity, white silk that flowed like water, lace sleeves that whispered against her skin. But it was her eyes that had undergone the most profound transformation. No longer haunted by grief and fear, they shone with purpose and joy. "You look like a queen," Elena said from her wheelchair, tears streaming down her face. Her health had improved dramatically with proper care, giving her the strength to witness this day. Marco would be bursting with pride. "I wish he could be here," Mia whispered. "He is, baby. He's here in every moment." Victoria entered, regal in silver, carrying a velvet box. Something old, from the family. She opened the box to reveal a diamond tiara that had belonged to Dante's great-great-grandmother. "You're a Valente now, even before the vows. Wear it with honor." As Victoria placed the tiara on Mia's head, there was a knock at the door. Elena wheeled over to answer it, and Mia heard her gasp. "Is she? Can I?" A man's voice, rough with emotion. Mia turned to find a stranger in the doorway, elderly, distinguished, with eyes that mirrored her own. He was flanked by security, but his focus was solely on her. "Who?" Mia began. "This is Antonio Valentini," Victoria explained gently. "Lorenzo's younger brother, your great-uncle. He's been living in Italy for 40 years, but I tracked him down. He wanted to meet you." Antonio stepped forward slowly, as if approaching something precious and fragile. "Mia," he breathed, "you have Lorenzo's spirit in your eyes and Marco's gentle heart in your smile." Tears streamed down his weathered face. "I ran when Giovanni took over. Too much of a coward to fight. I've regretted it every day. But seeing you now, knowing that you did what I couldn't, you restored our family's honor." He pulled a photograph from his pocket, 3 young men, arms linked, laughing. "Lorenzo, Giovanni, and me before power poisoned us. Keep this. Remember, we weren't always broken. Remember that love existed before the fall." Mia took the photograph with trembling hands. "Will you walk with my mother to give me away? Papa would want family, real family, to be a part of this." Antonio's sob was answer enough. The ceremony was held in the estate gardens, transformed into something magical. White flowers cascaded everywhere. Hundreds of candles awaited sunset. The guest list was unprecedented, reformed family members alongside former enemies. Now allies, business leaders beside foundation beneficiaries. The old world meeting the new. As the processional music began, Mia walked between her mother's wheelchair and Antonio's steady presence, feeling the presence of both her fathers, the one she had known and the one she had never met, in every step. And there, at the end of the aisle, stood Dante. He looked devastating in a black tuxedo, but it was his expression that made her breath catch. Pure love, wonder, and something akin to reverence. As Antonio placed Mia's hand in Dante's, he whispered, "Protect her as Lorenzo should have been protected. Love her as Marco loved. Build something worthy." "I will," Dante vowed. "With my life." The ceremony was both traditional and revolutionary. They spoke vows they had written themselves, promising not just love and fidelity, but partnership and transformation, dedication to justice, and a commitment to building a legacy worthy of those they had lost. "I vow to honor your father's sacrifice by being a man worthy of his daughter's love," Dante said, his voice steady despite his emotion. "I vow to build an empire of light with you, where our children will know honor over fear, love over power, truth over lies. I vow to stand beside you in every battle, to share every burden, to celebrate every victory." Mia responded, "I vow to remember where we came from while building toward where we're going. And I vow to love you, complicated, dangerous, perfect you, every day for the rest of our lives." When the officiant pronounced them married, their kiss was witnessed by a family spanning the divide between old and new, criminal and legitimate, past and future. And in that moment, the transformation was complete. The reception was jubilant. Speeches ranged from heartfelt to hilarious. They danced their first dance to a song about rising from the ashes. And Mia rested her head on Dante's chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. "What are you thinking?" he murmured. "That we did it. Despite everything of the violence, the loss, the fear, we did it. We found each other. We changed the world." "We're just beginning," Dante corrected. "This is the foundation. Now comes the real work. Raising kids in this world, guiding the family through decades of change, facing whatever enemies may rise." "Bring it on," Mia said fiercely. "We're phoenixes, remember? We rise." As the night deepened, Mia found herself on the terrace with Elena, watching the celebration through the windows. "Your father came to me in a dream last night," Elena said softly. "He told me to give you something." She pulled a letter from her purse, old and sealed in Marco's handwriting. "He wrote this the week before he died. Made me promise to give it to you on your wedding day." Mia's hands shook as she opened it. Marco's familiar script filled the page. "My dearest Mia, if you're reading this on your wedding day, it means I'm gone. It means I didn't get to walk you down the aisle, to threaten your future husband, to cry like a fool while my little girl becomes a woman. But I also know that if you've found someone worthy of marriage, you've found someone extraordinary. Because you, my darling daughter, are extraordinary, smart, fierce, compassionate, everything I hoped you'd be. I lived two lives. One is Marco Valentini, trapped in a world of violence, and one is Marco Russo, free to love your mother and you. The second life was shorter, harder, but infinitely better because it was built on truth and love. Whatever you choose, wherever you go, remember you are both Valentini and Russo. You carry the strength of a powerful lineage and the heart of someone who chose love over power. That combination makes you unstoppable. Build something beautiful, my phoenix. Rise from whatever ashes life creates and know that I loved you beyond measure, beyond reason, beyond death itself. Your father, who will always be watching over you, Marco." Mia clutched the letter to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Elena wrapped her arms around her daughter. "He knew," Mia whispered, almost to herself. "He knew I'd find my way here, that I'd take everything he gave me and build something worthy." Dante found them there, instinctively knowing Mia needed him. He read the letter over her shoulder, then pulled both women into an embrace. "We'll make him proud," he promised. "Every day, every choice, every battle, will make them all proud." As midnight approached, Mia had one final thing to do. She gathered her family, Victoria, Antonio, reformed family members, foundation beneficiaries. In the center of the garden, she placed two rings side by side on a pedestal, her father's phoenix ring and Dante's twin. "These rings were made as symbols of unity," she said, her voice carrying in the quiet night. "They were separated by greed and fear, but tonight they're reunited. Let them remind us that what's broken can be healed, that phoenixes rise, that love wins." She picked up her father's ring and placed it on Antonio's finger. This was Lorenzo's legacy, passed to his son, kept safe through tragedy. Now it passes to you, uncle, representing the family we were before the corruption. Then she turned to Dante, took his ring, and placed it on a chain around her own neck. And this represents what we're building, a family of honor, of light, of love. We carry it together, equal partners in this new empire. The gathering erupted in applause, and as fireworks exploded overhead, painting the night sky in gold and silver, Mia and Dante stood together, hands clasped, faces tilted toward the light. They had faced death and betrayal. They had uncovered century-old lies. They had transformed a criminal empire into something worthy. And they had found, against impossible odds, a love that would define generations. The phoenix had risen. The empire was reborn. And the future, their future, burned bright with possibility. 5 years later, the Foundation's annual gala had become one of New York's premier events. Mia stood on stage, 5 months pregnant with their second child. Their daughter Sophia sleeping in Dante's arms beside her. 5 years ago, I was a waitress who noticed a ring. That observation changed everything. Tonight, we announced the completion of the Lorenzo Daniel and Marco Valentini Community Center, a place where families can find help, hope, and a chance to build something better. Because that's what phoenixes do. We rise, we rebuild, we remember, and we never give up. The applause was thunderous. And as Mia looked at her family, her husband, her daughter, her mother, healthy and thriving, and smiling, surrounded by her unconventional yet cherished family of reformed souls, she couldn't help but recall her father's parting advice. Build something beautiful. And she had. They all had, really. The phoenix had only just begun to spread its wings and soar. If this resonated with you, please consider subscribing to the channel. That's the best way for me to know you connected with the story. Even if you happen to be watching on your television, please take a moment to become a part of this family of fans who deeply appreciate moving and heartfelt stories. Your support is invaluable, and it empowers us to continue sharing tales just like this one.